You're listening to Switched On Australia, the podcast that tracks the opportunities and challenges of the renewable energy transition and electrifying everything, everywhere. Switched On is proudly brought to you by Boundless Earth. Boundless Earth uses philanthropy, investment and direct advocacy to help Australia become a global force in a decarbonised world. Switched On is also brought to you by GoodWe, the all-in-one ESA battery system safely powering Aussie homes, lowering bills and providing energy independence. Hello and welcome to the Switched On Australia podcast. I'm Anne Delaney. Thanks for joining me. Today's episode is part of our occasional series, How I Electrified. These are real stories from Australians making the shift away from fossil fuels and transforming the way they power their homes. This time we're heading to Fitzroy North in Melbourne, where Anna Molan and Michael Fogarty have spent more than 2 decades steadily improving the comfort, the efficiency and the sustainability of their home. Now, theirs isn't a story of a quick switch from gas to electricity. It's a 25-year journey that in many ways mirrors the evolution of Australia's own energy transition. Many current electrification stories begin with getting rid of gas appliances. But when Anna and Michael began renovating their cold, draughty terrace back in 2001, electrification wasn't really part of the conversation. Their focus was to make the house more comfortable through insulation, double glazing and draught-proofing. And when it came to heating and hot water, they chose gas because at the time Victoria's electricity grid was dominated by brown coal, making gas the lower emissions option. So their journey sort of reflects how environmental logic has changed over time as the electricity grid has become cleaner. And although sustainability was always the primary motivator, their energy efficiency first pathway, it's a textbook case on how the energy transition can improve the everyday livability and comfort of our homes. Can you just describe for me your house before you started any of the energy efficiency or the electrification process? Just describe where it is roughly and what type of a house it was.
We live in a single-fronted terrace in Fitzroy North. Front half of the house was brick and the back half was really a wooden lean-to kitchen, living, bathroom. Holes that you could see through, wind could blow through, no insulation, very poor.
I think it could be described as cold and leaky.
Okay.
That's a short answer.
Okay. You started your, what I'm going to call your sustainable home journey back in 2001 with a renovation. Tell me what your motivations were then. You obviously wanted to renovate the place, but what were your motivations in doing some of those renovations?
The two main things, I think. The house was incredibly uncomfortable. It had an old lean-to that the wind whistled through, and the weatherboards were rotting and falling off. So, it was inevitable that we would pull that down and rebuild it. And at the time, we were both working for a national environment organisation, so used to conversations about sustainability and wanting to do something ourselves about it.
Yeah, I think we wanted a much more comfortable home, and also, we did care about the environment, so we wanted to reduce our footprint as we could go. So we put a lot of effort into insulation. We went for double glazing at the time, and just with that part of the house did, I think, as good a job as we could.
Yeah. So at that stage, it wasn't so much about electrifying, it was more about energy efficiency?
Yes, because electrifying was problematic because I think this is right, but Victoria was still burning very dirty brown coal then. So gas was actually a more sustainable option. Which is why we went with a gas instantaneous heater and a gas cooktop.
Right. So for you, it was a choice between a separate energy system, the gas, or brown coal in the electricity system.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, more or
Yeah.
less, yeah.
So what happened next? It was 2006 when you put in the solar, wasn't it?
Yes. So that was we'd been umming and ahhing a little bit about whether it was a good idea, but a friend convinced us that it was a good environmental and financial choice. So we put in a system right at the end of the high feed-in tariffs.
And was that feed-in tariff what got you over the line?
I would say it helped, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
financially.
it just financially, it made so much sense, and becoming more sustainable was almost a side benefit, I guess, but a desirable one.
Yeah, and things have, changed a lot. The systems were very expensive then, so the feed-in tariff did make a real difference.
And it was a very small system, wasn't it? I mean, a lot of people were putting in those small systems then. Tell me what your motivations were.
I think because we weren't 100% sort of committed, we just went for the smallest system you could get, 1.5 kilowatt hours. So, yeah.
That's tiny, isn't it?
It's absolutely tiny now. But the choices then were really probably 1.5, 3, 5, I think was considered a really big system.
Yeah.
So
I think the other factor was we didn't have a lot of we didn't have north-facing roof space. So we put in what we could on the east-facing side of the house.
Right. And that would have been the advice of the solar installers, that you need to try and focus on the north side. And that's changed, hasn't it? Because, with the micro sort of systems that they now have, that you can put them on different angles on your roof.
yes, and also, the panels are so much cheaper and so much more efficient. I think, we looked recently and, the panels you can get now put out twice as much power as the ones on our roof.
But even though it was a small system, every summer we were significantly in credit.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. So I was going to ask, how much of your electricity needs did it cover? I suppose it was a seasonal thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it covered all of our summer needs plus significantly more. Often we would be in credit, over $100 per bill, and obviously much less so in winter.
Are you still on that high feed-in tariff?
No, it's
No,
gone.
no, it's gone.
It went last year. It was very generous. It lasted for 15 years, I think, Michael. Is that right?
13 or 15. Anyway, it finished last year. Yeah. No, November. I think November the year before, actually. Yeah.
So what was the next step? You still had gas for your hot water system and your heating system, but 2018 you went for some more energy efficiency, didn't you?
2023, actually, when some of the systems started to fail. One of the heaters had broken down. The hot water system was, you could feel the heat fluctuating as you had a shower. So we knew it was time to make a change.
I was just going to say, but before that, you actually did a whole lot more draft-proofing, I understand.
Yes. So we tried to do what we could when we could. We improved the draft proofing around the doors. The floors were coming away from the walls. In fact, you could see through in some places in the older part of the house. So we started to do some work on the older part of the house, yes.
And we retrofitted 2 of the remaining windows so that they were double glazed.
They were the last ones that you needed to do?
Well, we still got one single glazed window. It's problematic. It's a big lead light window, and
tricky to do that.
we're still looking for a solution.
Okay.
But it's worth noting that as well as the double glazing, the people that retrofitted it also put in all new seals around the windows. So both of those things made a really big difference. I mean, you could put your hand next to the glass in winter and feel the cold coming through the glass. and you could put your hand around the window and feel cold air, drifting in through the cracks.
So, in terms of your comfort in the house, tell me how that changed things and your use of the house. Did that have a big impact? That extra draft proofing and the additional glazing on the windows?
Yeah, made a big difference, because this was in the old part of the house, so a living room where we, watch the TV or whatever. And it was never, even though we had a heater in there, you could you could feel the cold sort of seeping in. If you stood near the window, you could feel the cold on your back. When we changed it, all of a sudden it's consistently warm.
And I think also another change was it used to be a lot of condensation on the windows,
Yeah.
which led to mold, which is not so good for you. So once those windows had been retrofitted and sealed properly, that ceased to be a problem.
Yes. And then what prompted you finally to move away from the gas? Because you replaced your heaters and your hot water system all at once, didn't you?
Well, I think it had got to a point in the, development of energy efficiency that, for many reasons, burning fossil fuels and the health sort of implications of that, it was time to get off gas, as they say.
Yeah, and some of our, the hot water system was starting to show signs of failing. One of our heaters failed, so it was really, we knew we had to do something, and that's when we decided we'd just switch the whole house over at once, or the rest of the house over at once, to electric. Yeah.
Right. And so how did you go about doing that? How did you decide to proceed? How did you choose the installer? It was somebody who did a whole of home project, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we're looking around the My Efficient Electric House Facebook page.
Yes, Tim Forsey's excellent Facebook group.
Tim Forsey, yes, and someone on that recommended a company, Goodbye Gas, and the people were in Melbourne, so we just decided to follow up with them really, and start the process, and we were comfortable with how they went about it, and the questions they were asking.
I think from memory, Michael, we went to a couple of information sessions as well.
Oh yeah.
That were led by Tim Forsey, and they got us thinking about what our needs were and how we might meet them in an all-electric home.
So you were quite clear on what you wanted before you chose your installer? You got quite clear about that?
Reasonably clear about some things, so that the heating was going to be reverse cycle, and we'd done enough research that we wanted floor-mounted units rather than the normal ones on the wall, and that's because they're more efficient as heaters, and most of the need we need here in Melbourne is heating. So there was that. We were uncertain about.
And also, well, I must confess that aesthetically, I do not like the look of the wall-mounted units. I think they're quite ugly.
And I think a lot of people would agree with you, Anna. And, the other issue is I was going to ask you about was whether or not that whole effect of, the blowy air, that turns a lot of people off as well. They don't find that as comfortable. And I was wondering if you've got the floor-mounted units, that would it wouldn't be such an issue with the floor-mounted systems.
It's not an issue at all, which is another great benefit of the floor-mounted units, I think.
And having a well-sealed house helps, I think. Because I think people who had experience of the blowiness are usually being probably a fairly poorly insulated or sealed house. And so the machine's working all the time, whereas ours, it starts up and then a few minutes later it settles down and the house just, you hardly hear.
Yes. And do you do things like preheating the home when you're not there?
We paid a bit extra at the time to get a Wi-Fi controller unit for one of the heaters. And so if we're, say, coming home, on a winter's evening, we know the house is going to be cold, we just flick it on, and literally 15 minutes beforehand, it just takes the edge off the heat, and also there's warm air blowing out when you get in, so it feels warmer.
And what about the hot water? What did you replace that with? Your instant gas system, what did you replace it with?
With a heat pump system, storage heat pump, yep.
Yeah, we really weren't sure about that, to be honest. We were thinking perhaps an instantaneous electric might work for us, just because of the amount of space the tank was going to take up in our relatively small backyard. But in the end, talking to the installers, we were convinced that the heat pump was going to be more efficient. Yeah, but we put the condenser, the outside part, we put that on the roof, so that takes up less space.
Ditto for the floor-mounted heating. The condensers are on the roof, so that's quite a bit of space that we've safeguarded in the backyard.
And there were no issues with putting it on the roof? The condensers on the roof?
The instantaneous gas heating was already on the roof, so I guess we could sort of prove that it worked to have it on the roof. If they break down, I guess it's more complex to fix it because you have to get up on the roof. But the installers were happy to do it like that.
They prefer not to carry the thing up onto the roof, but they didn't seem to have any problems fixing it and making it all work.
And were there any hitches? Were there any setbacks in the installation process for those items?
So I think all the items were fine. We did have our major hitch was we had organised to have the gas cut off the week after everything was installed, but the gas company had their own schedule, and they actually cut off the gas, literally pulled it out a week before the installation.
Oh, really? That sounds like payback to me.
That was entirely my fault for being too impatient and wanting it all to happen instantly. But
yes, we came home to all these trucks in our small street. We thought, what's going on? And then we realised they were at our place.
Right.
And then we asked somebody,
what are you doing?
What on earth are you doing? And they said, well, we've cut off the gas.
Okay. And, well, very efficient. And how much did it cost you to deinstall the gas?
I think nothing for us in the end because of the kerfuffle. But the cost is minimal in Victoria.
Yeah, it's fixed in Victoria. I think $250 or something like that.
Yeah, it is around that.
But yeah, they didn't send us a bill in the end because they stuffed us up so much. They actually had to come back and put the gas back on, and then come
because
back
we had
again.
people staying that week.
Goodness me.
It was a disaster.
Yeah, right. And did they cap it, or did they actually take the piping out?
Took the piping out to the road.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's still the gas in the street for other people to use?
Yeah, I imagine there's still pipe going down the road, but they dug up the road and I guess sealed it off underneath the road and put the asphalt back on.
Okay, we'll take a short break and be back right after this message from one of our sponsors.
G'day, Alex Carey here. The Goodwee ESA all-in-one home storage solution is here, and it's a game changer. It's packed with market-leading features, full home backup and 6-level battery protection. With up to 48 kilowatt hours in a single stack, the ESA is a breeze to install with no gateway needed. The Goodwee ESA series is available now and priced to cover the 2026 drop in the rebate. Visit goodwee.com.au for more information.
My guests today on Switched On Australia are Anna Molan and Michael Fogarty, and we're talking about their 25-year journey to electrify their home, to make it more energy efficient and much more comfortable. Now, look, one of the big issues for people in electrifying their homes is obviously the upfront costs. People want to know that it's going to be worth it. Is it going to be a financially sensible thing to do? Looking at the payback, are my bills going to go down? Are there rebates, etc.? How much did this set you guys back?
Hopefully you can answer that, Michael.
I think it was close to 20,000.
Right.
Am I right in that?
I think that's a good ballpark figure.
And I would say that, with the probable exception of the stovetop, I think everything else was actually going to be a financially good investment.
And what made it that way? Because you had to replace your gas heater and your gas hot water anyway?
Well, yes, but gas is just so expensive these days. And the heat pump technology is just so efficient.
The most efficient heating machines ever made, I've had one expert say to me.
That sounds exactly right. And so, obviously with the gas stovetop, you use so little gas that and they last forever, that you would never really get your money back just on that, except for the fact by having it, you've got to keep paying a bill every day. And as Anna mentioned before, there's the health benefits, and induction is just so wonderful to cook on after gas that no one should ever be cooking on gas, I don't think.
I think for us, like, we spend quite a bit of time with family and friends in Europe, and everyone has induction cooktops. So we were used to the concept of them and used to using them.
Yeah, and it does take a little while still to get used to. I mean, they're just so fast to heat up, but yet you can leave it simmering for ages and, just at the one temperature. I mean, you don't want to put something on, turn it on high and go out and put the washing out or something, be a disaster.
I was going to say it is still possible to have the milk boil over when you turn your back, which I did yesterday.
Right, but it's still it's so easy to clean. That's the thing I love about it.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So you just wipe it down, but it's the control over it. You can heat so quickly, set it at a precise temperature. Yeah, it's really fabulous. I tested it because I was having a discussion with my nephew, who's an engineer, and so I tested by boiling a litre of water on the stove compared to boiling it in the kettle.
Yeah.
And it was considerably faster on the stove.
Yeah, it's great. Can I just go back to the issue of finding a good installer? You obviously did do some research. You went to information talks about electrifying. So you had research to feel confident in your choices, I presume. How important was it to stay on top of the work as it was being done? Did you find that an issue?
Yeah, well, not so much an issue, but yes, we did have to stay on top of it. It was happening. There was a lot happening in the day. The reverse cycle heating guys, hot water, an electrician in. There was a lot of work happening, and
well, we had to make some decisions quickly as well. Like, the power board, suddenly the front door doesn't close because it's a bigger power board, and they have to put in wiring for the oven. How will that work? Will they punch a few holes in the wall, which is what somebody said? And I thought, oh, okay, we've got to pay attention here.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, we had to discuss some aspects of it, like where cabling went and things like that, so it would look neat. Mostly we got that right. There was some bit where it wasn't absolutely perfect, but get used to it.
Michael, I think we had to call somebody back from memory that something wasn't quite done well enough around the hot water.
Yeah, there was a small issue there, and Here's the good thing about using one company to manage the whole process is if there's a problem, you just call one person and they've got to work out, you haven't got the plumber arguing with the electrician or blaming somebody else. They just have to come back and fix it. So that was a good part.
And did you have to upgrade the electrical system?
No, not the system. We had to put in we had to do a certain amount of work to the switchboard because they had to run a new line for the induction. And when we chose to upgrade it to a bigger switchboard because it would have been at its absolute limit if we'd just done the minimum. And so that meant, therefore, that we couldn't have added more solar or a battery so we paid extra to get that done.
So it was future-proofing, really. While there was a sparky there, it seemed to make sense to make sure it had capacity in the future.
And which proved to be a good decision, actually, because we had a battery put in a couple of weeks ago and, meant we didn't have to do a whole lot more, didn't have to do that work again.
Yeah, that's great. And so you've obviously taken advantage of the federal rebate under the Cheaper Home Batteries scheme?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, it ended yesterday or whenever.
Well, it's just gone down. It's just not as generous.
Yeah, it wouldn't have actually, as a 15 kilowatt hours, I wouldn't have really, would have been a minor impact.
Yeah, right. And did you decide on a 15 kilowatt battery because you didn't want to do any further work on the electrics, or why did you choose the 15 kilowatts?
No, it was partly, it was really in discussion with the installers who actually came out and looked at the place and then had a chat about the size. And they didn't push us to one zone, but they were suggesting that was enough for our use. And then again, it's on our front veranda, so there's a limited amount of space. So it was those two things, yeah.
And tell me, how does the house perform day to day? Have your electricity bills gone down? Has anything changed about how you use your energy?
Well, before, obviously the electricity use went up a bit when we got rid of the gas, but the costs go down because we weren't paying for the gas. But I don't think they went up. They didn't go up as much as we expected, actually. So that was a pleasant surprise. The battery was only just been turned on. We're getting used to that, but even in the few days we've had it on, it's showing that we're not actually drawing any power from the grid except for during the free 3 hours that we get during the middle of the day. So
Yeah.
hopefully that continues. See what happens in winter, I guess.
And, in terms of our usage, obviously, we're in a position that we can do things between 11 and 2.
Because you work at home.
That's right, yeah. So we don't pay, there's no cost for electricity at that time.
And so because the hot water is set to come on at that time, for instance, and then the battery is set to fill itself up at that time.
That's great that you haven't actually had to draw on the grid. Are you thinking about an electric vehicle, and how do you think that will impact your electricity use?
Well, we don't have a car, so an electric vehicle wouldn't be a win. For us, it wouldn't be a win to go from no car to an electric vehicle,
Right.
even if it is electric.
So no plans for a car?
No, we haven't had a car. We sold our car, I think, in 2008, and just decided that, given that we live in the inner north and we're incredibly well serviced by public transport and we like to walk, we thought if we couldn't make a lack of a car work, then there was probably something wrong with us. And yeah, it works, and I don't really see the need to buy a vehicle.
And we're a member of a car share scheme too.
Yeah,
so
when you need it.
when we need to go out and visit relatives or go away for the weekend, we can just go and get a car whenever we want. It would be nice if those cars were electric. That would be perfect.
I'm pretty sure that some are planning to be. Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Now, you've recently replaced some older LED lighting. Why was that worth doing?
They were older style ones that had a gap around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
So there was hot air escaping up into the ceiling, and also there were older models. You couldn't put insulation over the top, so just to sort of plug last few holes in the insulation. Yeah, we got those replaced.
We should have done it earlier, but one of the last things that we have done is re-insulate the roof, which we did ourselves. It's not expensive, apart from being, cramped up in the roof cavity for a day. It's made a big difference.
Because it was a higher grade insulation?
Yeah. It just keeps the house temperature so much more even.
And did you put that on top of the old insulation?
We did. We weren't really up for removing the old insulation.
We were sort of under the impression or delusion that the insulation was okay in the old part of the house. But when we went up and checked it, we saw that it was actually quite poor. There was coverage, but not very, not very much. So that's when we bit the bullet and decided to put in new insulation. Yeah, as Anna said, made a real difference.
And that old insulation that was put in when you renovated back in 2001, was it?
No, that was already in the house when we moved in. Yeah.
Now, your motivation has been, it sounds to me, to make a difference for the planet. How do you feel about the impact that you've made?
It's very small, it's a very small difference, but I think it's an important difference to make. It would be good if the impact was a lot broader, but I think I feel good about it. And it also means that we can have conversations with people and,
Yes.
talk from a position of having actually done something.
Yeah, I think we feel good about making our small contribution, and we've been able to just extend that contribution a little bit by talking to some of our neighbours who have shown an interest in electrification, or in the case of one whose heating system broke down, so she came in over and asked us what we'd done. And so we've had 2 or 3 neighbours now who have moved along their electrification process as well. So yeah, rippling effect.
Yeah, I think for them, just being able to look at the infrastructure required has helped, that it doesn't have to take up a lot of space, that it doesn't, have to look awful.
Right. Was that the concern of some of your neighbours?
Yeah, it was. Because, they have small yards as well.
So, being able to come into our house and talk about how it works and, turn it on for them and show them where things are. Yeah, I think it did make. And sort of just gives people more confident when they've actually seen it in place, because it's not then just an imagination or a salesperson telling you what would work.
And so if somebody is trying to start electrifying today, what's the main piece of advice that you wish that you had had when you first started?
Probably do some research first, go to an information night, chat to your neighbours if they're part way along the journey. Maybe talk to someone like Goodbye Gas. There's other providers now who project manage for you, and, talk about the services they provide and how it might all roll out.
Yeah, we're lucky in Yarra. We've got a local group, Electrify Yarra, and they put out a newsletter and they run information nights. So there's quite a lot of information around. Now they're a part of a wider group, Electrify Australia, run by
Saul Griffith.
Saul Griffith.
Rewiring Australia.
Rewiring Australia.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah. So there is quite a bit of information around. Yeah.
And looking back, what would you do differently, if anything?
Give a different date to the gas company.
Yes, rein in my impetuosity, I think. But But apart from that, I think would have done it earlier, really. It does make a difference. There are those things about doing the right thing, but there's also about having a really comfortable house. So, having a well-insulated, reasonably well-sealed house with good appliances, it's just so much more comfortable to live in. It's fabulous.
Well, look, thank you so much for sharing your electrification and energy efficiency journey with me. Anna Molan and Michael Fogarty, thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
And Anna Molan and Michael Fogarty have been sharing their electrification and energy efficiency journey that they've been on for the last 25 years with their Fitzroy North home in Melbourne. We'll have more interviews in coming weeks as part of our occasional How I Electrified series. And don't forget to check out some of the other stories we've published as part of this series over the last several months. And also, don't forget to please like, share, review, and tell all your friends about Switched On. I'm Anne Delaney. I'll see you next time. Switched On Australia was proudly brought to you by GoodWe. GoodWe's all-in-one ESA home battery helps Australians store more of their own solar energy and rely less on the grid. With strong local support and technology already trusted in thousands of homes, GoodWe is making the switch to electrification simpler and more affordable. GoodWe is proud to work with Australian cricketer and GoodWe ambassador Alex Carey. Find out more at goodwe.com.au. Switched On Australia is also proudly brought to you by Boundless Earth. Boundless Earth uses philanthropy, investment and direct advocacy to help Australia become a global force in a decarbonised world.